Welcome to this evening's Muskogee City Council meeting, August 28, 2017. The invocation this evening will be by Councilmember Derek Reed, and then join us for the flag salute following that.
Shall we pray? Gracious Father, we come thanking you once again for allowing us to come together one more time. Thank you for allowing us to arrive safely here to the city chambers to do the business of our community. And we ask that you would just bless us in the decisions that we have to make on tonight, that all that we do will be in your will. We can't help but remember those who are in the Texas area and affected by the floods. We just ask that you would bless those families, bless those communities. Continue to put your hand of protection around the city of Muskogee and the state of Oklahoma, as well as the United States of America. These blessings and many others we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Join us for the flag salute. Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I guess we can put the highway patrol on stand down mode. Patrick just arrived. We'll just harass you a little bit. We'll now consider the minutes from the Muskogee City Council special call meeting. I'm sorry. We need to do roll call first. Thank you, Tammy. Roll call.
Mayor Bob Coburn.
Here.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Here.
Dan Hall.
I am present.
Marlon Coleman.
Here.
Jenny Boydston. Here. Wayne Johnson.
Here.
Patrick Kale.
Here.
Ivory Van.
Here.
Derek Reed.
Here.
Been a full house. Now the minutes from the special call meeting of August the 8th and on the regular session from August the 14th. Minutes, are there additions or corrections to those minutes? If not, entertain a motion.
Move the approval.
And a motion?
Second.
Second. Any comments? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Jenny Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes. Motion carries. Consent agenda will be items 1 through 5. Is there anything you would like to move to the regular agenda? Entertain a motion on the consent agenda, items 1 through 5.
Move for approval. Second.
Got a motion and a second on items 1 through 5, the consent agenda. Any comment or question? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Jenny Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. We'll now go to regular agenda item number 6.
Hold a public hearing and take action on the approval of ordinance 4025A, rezoning the property located at 2400 North Country Club Road, Muskogee Golf Club, more particularly described in ordinance 4025A, from A Agriculture District to PUD Planned Unit Development District, and if approved, authorize staff to revise the official zoning map of the city to reflect said change or take other necessary action.
We will now consider ourselves in a public hearing. Mr. Garvin?
Mayor, members of the council, which we went through this presentation in the Public Works meeting, but since it is a public hearing, I feel like we need to go through the entire presentation one more time, so bear with me on it. The applicant, Muskogee Golf Club, is requesting...
Harry, let me interrupt you. Bruce, we've got some monitors over here that are not on.
Can we see it on the screen, looking left or to our right, either one? Do we need to wait, or do we?
I'm good with that. Just go.
Should be able
I'm
to
good.
reset
Everybody else
rather than where
okay?
you're
You
sitting,
okay with
Roy.
this, Eric?
Okay.
If you back up and...
Go ahead.
I think we've seen it once.
Which plug did you kick out this time?
Glad to know that. If we can stop action.
Hope they don't ever give me that job.
Okay, we're good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce.
Appreciate it. Okay.
Okay, the applicant, Muskogee Golf Club, is requesting approval to rezone property from the A Agricultural District to the PUD Planned Unit Development District. The property is located at 2400 North Country Club Road. The reason for the rezoning is to allow the property to be developed residentially. They are proposing single-family dwellings on the property. Looking at the existing zoning land use within the area, starting with the site. Currently, the site is zoned A Agricultural and is part of the golf course. To the north of the site is zoned A agricultural, golf course. South of the site is zoned A agricultural, golf course. And east of the site is zoned A agricultural, and its golf course and also the location of the clubhouse. West of the site, across Country Club Road, is zoned R1, single-family dwelling, and there are single-family dwellings on the property. Now, this is the preliminary plat for the development. The preliminary plat will serve as the site plan for the rezoning. If the rezoning is approved, the property has to be developed in accordance with this preliminary plat/site plan. So I'm going to go through the proposed development. First of all, they will be installing a Type A street, which is a concrete curb and gutter street. That is the area highlighted in red. The area that's being circled is the intersection of Country Club and the road that extends down to the clubhouse. During the subdivision meeting, there were some concerns about that intersection. Currently, that intersection comes in basically at a 45-degree angle. And people exiting from the road onto Country Club, it makes it hard to see at that angle if traffic's coming. So we requested that they revise the intersection and put it at a right angle so that they're parallel or abut the street at a right angle when entering onto Country Club Road for safety issues, which they have agreed to. They're also installing a sidewalk/golf cart path around the perimeter of the development. That is the area that's highlighted in yellow. They're installing a 6-inch water main. That's the area highlighted in blue, along with 3 fire hydrants to serve the addition. The area being highlighted in the light yellow is the existing sanitary sewer. They are extending it with an 8-inch to serve the addition. The areas pipes being highlighted in purple is dealing with the stormwater, and I'll address the stormwater in a little more details in just a minute. They are proposing 11 streetlights within the development. There will be some landscaping at the entrance, and there's a landscaping plan showing the green area and the types of trees. This development will show, rather than setbacks, it will show a building area. That building area is where the structure can be built. The areas that are shaded gray are the building area. I've highlighted one of the lots with a red box, and now I'm highlighting the building area in yellow. You can see where the lot is. The building area, again, is the portion of property that the structure can be built on. As far as building height and intensity, the preliminary plat states they will comply with the requirements within the R1 single-family residential zoning classification, which means they can go 2.5 stories, 35 feet, one structure per lot. Cannot cover more than 35% of the lot with structures. Those are basically the intensity requirements within the R1. Here's some floor plans that was submitted by the applicant, showing some different design proposed structures within the proposed development and a rendering. I think the applicant has some more details as far as square footage and types of material that he'll address here after I get through. Going back to the stormwater. The area outlined in yellow is the existing storm drainage area. Currently, half of that property, basically 8.35 acres of that drainage area, drains to the south. And this is prior to any construction. This is the way it sits today. No dirt turn, the way it is right now. The area outlined in green is 7.79 acres. That property basically drains to the north. The property that drains to the south basically just sheet flows kind of southeast across the golf course to the Club View area and on around towards behind the duplexes. After construction, they are reducing the acreage that was currently being drained to the south and diverting it back to the north. So drainage is going to be reduced from 8.35 acres to the 4.69 acres, thus reducing the amount of water runoff currently going south. That will increase the portion going north from 7.79 acres to 11.3 acres. The part that is going south, as far as the The streets are, again, as I stated, a curb and gutter streets. So the water that goes to the streets will then be piped over to North Country Club Road, where it will head south down to an existing drainage channel. The portion to the north will go to a new detention pond. They're increasing the runoff from the south to the north, so they needed a detention pond to cover that increase in detention. Now, there will still be a little bit of water that will sheet flow south and east across the golf course. The backyards of the lots, that water cannot drain to the street, so there will be a portion of the backyards that will continue to sheet flow, but it will be a lot less amount than what is currently sheet flowing. Now, I stated the property, the water runoff would run to Country Club. Here's a drawing that shows some improvements along Country Club. We were aware that there is some existing drainage issues with Country Club, and those issues will be addressed whether this development occurs or not. The main difference is if this development occurs, they will share into the cost of these improvements. What they're proposing is 4 culverts and doing some ditch work. The culverts will be a 13 by 22 concrete arch culvert. Within the regulations, there are certain findings that City Council needs to look at when determining approval of a PUD zone in Section 90-0503A. I'm going to try to go over those. I'll try to be as brief as I can to explain those findings. The first one talks about the comprehensive plan. If you look at the comprehensive plan, one of the major goals within the plan on residential development states, provide a housing inventory and living environment that supports the local population and accommodates future growth while improving the overall health, quality, image, and character of Muskogee. The facts are that over the last 10 years, the number of new residential permits for housing, new structures, have reduced over the last 10 years. We've done different things with incentive programs and brought those up to some degree, but if you take off the incentive, basically there's only been about 20 to 25 annually. That number has reduced substantially in the past 10 years. Also, if you look at their demolition, for every 3 houses we demolish, there's only 1 new structure built. So not only is the number of permits being reduced, new construction, also our housing stock is being reduced. And basically that's why we have a lot of people who are working here in Muskogee but yet live outside of the city of Muskogee. If you'll remember, we've had conversations with St. Francis and the VA hospital where they have stated that it's hard for them to recruit new doctors and new employees because of the quality housing available in Muskogee. Also, several times the port has stated when they're talking to industrial prospects, when you have someone that may have 200 or 300 jobs, they're concerned about the number of quality housing in Muskogee to accommodate those new jobs if they were to locate here. This project is providing 27 new quality homes within Muskogee. Next item is the public welfare. Basically what we look at there, will it impede light, air, cause a fire danger? We have reviewed, it will not impede the supply of light or air, nor will it increase fire. We've also checked to make sure that fire trucks have access to all the roads and meet all the requirements. So it will not endanger the public health, safety, or welfare. Next item is impact on other property. If you recall, at our Public Works meeting, Gary Bishop got up and spoke that he had looked at the property and reviewed it and felt like it wouldn't have a negative impact on the abutting property owners. We also contacted, and he has stated, it is my opinion, after careful review of the plans and drawings, that Maxwell Villas, a planned unit development, would have no negative impact on the market value of the surrounding properties. Next item is impact on public facilities. The developer is installing water, sewer, stormwater improvements. Those improvements are installed in accordance with the subdivision regulations as required by code. So it will not have an impact on our system. Historic cultural impact. We feel like the proposed project will not adversely impact the existing golf course that's located on 3 sides of the property. Any historical integrity that the golf course had was lost. Basically, I think it was in the 1970s when it was redesigned. However, they are taking it back to the original Maxwell design, which will actually improve the historic value of the golf course. And it's going from a 71 back to a 70. We do feel like this development will help ensure the continued maintenance and operation, though, of the existing golf course. Next is the parking and traffic. This is a PUD development. PUDs can be commercial. Basically, the parking and traffic, so if we want to do a traffic study, it would be if it was a commercial development. On this one, it will not have any impact. This is a residential development. Parking will be off-site parking. There will be garages built on the houses, so it will not be any type of negative impact there. Adequate buffering is the next one. This proposal abuts the golf course on 3 sides. On the west side, you've got a golf cart path plus road before you get into the adjacent property owners, single-family dwellings. So there is adequate buffering around the property. The last one was signage. Our sign regulations will allow one subdivision sign, identifying the subdivision sign. In this case, it would say Maxwell Villas Edition. Cannot be any larger than 150 square feet, and they will have to comply with those regulations. Also, within the regulations, there are 7 other items that council could consider when reviewing the request, and I'll try to go even quicker through these items. The first one was integrated design. Well, this is designed to be part of the golf course. It's built with the buffering and with the sidewalks and the golf cart paths around the perimeter to be tied in with the golf cart. So it is part of the design. Next one is beneficial common open space. There's no part of the open space within this development that appear to be isolated or appear to be leftover type character. So we feel like it complies with that requirement. The next one is functional and mechanical features. Again, this is a residential development, not a commercial, so there is no service areas or loading docks or outside mechanical insulation, so to speak. So it would not comply or apply to this development. Next one is visual and acoustical privacy. Again, this is a residential development, not a commercial, so as far as noise and those items would not play a part. As far as visual, it's got golf course on 3 sides. The houses are new houses that are going to be built. We do not feel like there's any objectionable views within this proposed development. Energy efficient design. As these lots are sold and someone makes application for a building permit, the City of Muskogee, as always, will encourage people to build an energy-efficient home. We'll also encourage them to have an architectural design to their home so they're not basically cookie-cutter homes that all look the same. That will be up to the development and any covenants that they may have, but we always encourage that when they make application for building permits. Next one's drives, parking, and circulation. Again, I already addressed the parking. As far as the circulation, the streets are built to comply with the subdivision regulations. And the last one was stormwater drainage, and I basically already addressed it. Now, this item has been recommended by staff and Planning Commission for approval. At the Public Works meeting Tuesday, this item was tabled, and it was tabled for a couple of reasons. One was they wanted some more information about the stormwater. One was they wanted the city to contact an appraiser and get an opinion, which we did. There was also some questions about some PUDs within the city. Upon review, there's actually 2 that are adjacent to the golf course. One is the Putter Place and one is Clubview 5th Edition that are just right adjacent to the golf course back to the east of it. There's another one that is on Shawnee that's reasonably close. If you remember the Park Ridge row house, townhouse type development, that's also a PUD development. Be glad to answer any questions. Again, staff Planning Commission recommended approval. Mike Ross is representing the applicant. I think he has some more information about more details as far as the size of the structures and appearance.
I have a question. The latest drainage map that I showed specific culvert sizes, pipe drain sizes, and it looks like it's been amended to say arch culvert.
Yeah, they're proposing a 13-inch by 22-inch. Actually, did I?
Was that change
Thought I
made
had
this morning or this afternoon?
Yes, yes. Meeting with the developer, or excuse me, meeting with the engineer, Greg Armstrong. That has changed. Some of the concerns was the depth needed for a larger culvert. Instead of going with the oblong, going up higher, it would need more slopes and could have some impact on adjacent property owners. By going with the oblong, it won't have any impact on the abutting property owners.
I-
We felt like it was a more appropriate design going with the 13 by 22.
I think that was one of my questions this morning, but I was intent on satisfying that if indeed the drainage was done in cooperation with them and or what the city has plans to do.
Yeah, the
Now,
improvements.
I took the time to look at flow numbers and charts and what have you, so I'm going to ask you, since I didn't quiz him about a 13 by 22 arch, is staff confident that this handles the flow
Yes, I met with
appropriately?
Mike Stewart, who is very familiar with this area, and talked to him about it and showed him, and we both talked to Greg Armstrong and determined that the 13 by 22 was capable. Also made Greg aware, and he's had time to look at it, and he had no objections to it either.
Thank you.
Where's the majority of this water going to flow to?
The majority, well, you got two ways. Part of it's going to go south. The part that's going to go south, the large majority is going to go down the ditch in Country Club. That's why which we know there's some issues with the ditches on Country Club, and there's going to be some improvements made, again, whether this development occurs or not. But the majority of the water that's going to the south will go down Country Club. The water that goes to the north will go to a detention pond that they are installing, because they have increased the water going north and reduced the amount of water going south.
Okay. That's what I was chasing. I was wanting to make sure that that low area down there by Come and Go, that we weren't going to overfill that again, because it's already shows a lot of water in there when it rains.
And it's also my understanding that there's also some sidewalk projects that we're also looking at that we
Okay.
try to do at the same time. We're going to do the stormwater repairs, putting a sidewalk on the east side to allow pedestrian traffic to come and go.
Okay.
On this item, just by way of information, we have 9 people who have signed up to speak to this item, so we want to be sure and include that in the public comment, public hearing, sorry. So when would we like to hear public comment? Before we begin to have question and answer? What's the thought on that?
Before? I'm good now. How about y'all?
Go ahead and go with them now? Okay. Bob Buckley, you had signed up to speak to this item. If you would come to the microphone here, sir, and you will give us your,
Mayor Gary mentioned that Mr. Ross had a few things before
okay.
comment. That's up to you, of course.
Mr. Ross, do you want to be before the public comments? That's probably a good thought. Thank you, Mr. Buckley. I'm sorry.
Mike Ross, 4105 Putter Place, Muskogee. Just to give you, I'm going to go through the same spiel I did in the last meeting, pretty much, with a few different things. About 5 years ago, Muskogee Country Club was owned by the members and was broke. We were in about a 24,000 square foot facility at that time. So about a group of 25 members put up their hard-earned money and paid the debt off and bought the club from the members. We did numerous improvements with the money that we raised from the investment group. And last year, we went down and we borrowed some more money, went from about 24,000 square feet, tore down about 14,000 foot of that, renovated it, made it smaller, downsized it, because the original clubhouse was built when there were 600 members. And, you know, right now total all classifications were less than 300. So, you know, a fact is that over 400 country clubs closed in the country last year. Golf's a tough business to try and make some money at, or even pay your bills at. If you just look at the other 2 public golf courses here in town, they're struggling too. It's not just us. So when this group of investors, members, put up their money, one of the ways that we thought we could pay our debt down was this development. So it's crucial to the survival of the country club for this development to go through. There's been a lot of talk about changing the historical value of the Perry Maxwell golf course. While that's true, in the 70s it was redesigned, but it only affected 4 or 5 holes. One of the holes is 15 that everybody's talking about, was changed back in the 70s. The members will play that as a par 4 going back, moving forward to the forward tees. There's no tee boxes, there's no greens, there's no fairway, there's nothing aesthetically changes on the golf course. But we're moving the tees up to protect the homes a little bit from the slicers. We all know who those are, right? But during tournament play, which we're talking to some Adams Tour events and stuff like that, they will play the back tees. Now, it's been talked about that it's going from a par 71 to a par 70. I'm sure probably everybody here has heard of Southern Hills. You know what their par is? It's Perry Maxwell. Same designer. You know what their par is? 70. Dornick Hills and Ardmore. Perry Maxwell course. Par 70. That's what Perry Maxwell thought par should be on a golf course, par 70. You know, I think it's terrible that the city has incentives for builders to come down here and build private homes. We're not asking for any of those incentives. We're here to develop 27 new homes and then put them on the tax rolls to help the county and the school. I think the city gets a little bit of that money, not a whole lot. There's been discussion about financing available, and we have given a document to Mr. Garvin, but we have 10 of these pre-sold. These 10, when we can get them a deed, they'll put a deposit down. That'll be enough money for us to do the infrastructure, the water, the sewer, the streets, the lights, everything ready, shovel ready to build. I don't think Muskogee, inside the city limits of Muskogee, we have any lots that are pretty much shovel ready to go for townhomes. There is some private ones out north of Country Club there that I think that's available. You know, the residents of Country Club Road, and no hard feelings with them. You know, in life you got to agree to disagree. But if you drive down Country Club Road, there's one member on Country Club Road, Mr. Nick Fuller. His house is down by 16 Green. Everybody that lives across the street, there's no members. Nobody's supporting us. It takes a lot of money to keep this view beautiful like it is. Some of the covenants, and these aren't set in stone, but as the management group is going to recommend to the ownership group that we'll have 1,600 square foot minimum on these houses. They can be 2-story. They'll be 80% brick, rock, or stucco. They'll have no privacy fence, no chain link, so we'll require like a wrought iron type fence. And that's going to be our recommendation to the full ownership group who has to vote on it. But I'm pretty sure that's what they're going to go along with. And as you talked about the water, the city currently has a major problem with that area, and we understand that. Talking to Mike Stewart at the last meeting, we're willing to help and do whatever we can during the development to make that a better issue, because I turn right there and go across. When we get a gully washer, the water runs right across Country Club Drive. So from there all the way to Come and Go, we've got an issue that we're willing to help with, and I think the city has plans to try and fix it in the future. And that's all I've got to say. Any questions?
I have a question for Mr. Garvin. On the covenants being adopted, wouldn't we normally like to have that in hand as we proceed versus hoping that they're adopted as presented?
The city of Muskogee does not enforce approved covenants. so we do not look at them for any development.
Thank you.
We're ready to hear from these 9 people regarding their comments. Mr. Buckley. Hate to have you get up twice, but give me your name and your address, and you will have 5 minutes, sir.
Buckley, 2800 Fort Davis Drive. I am an avid golfer. Family moved here in 1957. I was a little bitty kid. Been long time dues payers at Muskogee Country Club. I am not part of the ownership group, but I can tell you I am extremely glad that there is an ownership group. Muskogee Country Club was pretty close to closing several years ago, and these guys stepped up, put their money, and they put a lot of hard work into this. I don't see any negatives. It's a beautiful golf course. It's going to be done in good taste. I don't really see where's a negative to anybody. It's just a plus for the country club owners. It's a plus for the city of Muskogee. That's it.
Thank you for your comments, sir. Joey Dills had signed up to speak.
And Mayor, don't forget we have 5 minutes for questions for any of the speakers.
Okay. Mr. Dills, your name and address, sir, and you have 5 minutes, and then we'll have 5 minutes to question you if we choose.
Joey Dills, 7315 South Gary Place, Tulsa, Oklahoma. I moved to Muskogee when I was 10 years old, which happens to be 45 years ago. And my father, we moved in from the 16th green at Muskogee. I went to Muskogee High School, played golf at Muskogee. Muskogee's been my home until I went away to college, and then I never came back. But I am one of the owners in the owner group. In fact, I bought more than one unit, and my desire was for nothing else but for us to save the country club. Muskogee deserves to have Perry Maxwell Golf Course. It is a very unique thing to have, and I currently belong to Southern Hills that is a Perry Maxwell Golf Course in Tulsa. It's my goal when I retire for my wife and I to come back to Muskogee and hopefully own one of these units and to retire there. I love to play golf. I've had cancer for a while, but I'm fighting that off. And I would hate to see the city not approve this, because we've done a lot of work to make sure that we do the best we can to incorporate the views and to make it an attractive place for people to live, and to be a nice, attractive thing for the city of Muskogee to have. I simply hope that you all will find it to approval. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Other questions? Martha Dixon. Okay. Lauren Farron. Pass. William Philman. Name and address, and you will have 5 minutes, sir.
My name is William Philman. I live at 4001 Putter Place here in Muskogee. I was born and raised here in Muskogee, born here in 1947 in the old Baptist Hospital, which is no longer here. I lived all my life here in Muskogee, except for 3 years in the military during the late 1960s, and 10 years from 1988 to 1998 when I was transferred around the country with the Department of Veterans Affairs. I returned to Muskogee in 1998 as the director of the VA regional office here. And one of the things that I was able to do during my last 9 years at the VA was to bring over 1,000 jobs to the city of Muskogee at the VA regional office. Unfortunately, not all those people could find homes here in Muskogee of the type that they wanted. I think this addition will be greatly enhance Muskogee. It will bring people to Muskogee. My first affiliation with the country club was in 1957 when I played the junior golf tournament out there. I learned to play at Old Meadowbrook Country Club, which is now called Eagle Crest. And if you've driven by Eagle Crest lately, you've seen what's happened to that golf course. My house lives at 401 Putter Place, as I said. I bought that house because it backed up to the Indian Area capital, Votech. beautiful lot, wooded lot behind it. No chance that anything would ever be built behind that. Boy, was I wrong. There's a group of townhouses that moved in right behind us because we needed homes in Muskogee. Because you own a home that overlooks the golf course does not mean that you have the right to always have that view. And we found that out at our house when we lost the view that we had and the climate that we had around there. I think that this will be very beneficial. From what I've seen in the plans, it's not going to take away anything from anybody's view. The golf course is going to remain intact. The people that drive down Country Club Drive will not miss anything. They'll still be able to see the beautiful views of the golf course. So I believe that this plan should be passed, and I appreciate your support, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Is there a question or comment from Mr. Tillman? Alicia Hayworth? How are you, ma'am?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. Give us your name and your address, please.
Yes, sir. But may I approach?
Sure.
May I approach?
That's
You know, I have to have.
sounding pretty legal here.
Really? Spooky.
If you could take a few of these and hand them down.
How you doing?
Hi.
Let's go that way.
Let me get these distributed. This might be, sorry, to go around.
Alicia, are these all the same?
They're all the
Okay.
same. Does everybody have one?
I have.
I have two.
And so you should. But I've got enough to come over here as well. Hi, I am Leisha Hayworth. My address is 2711 North Country Club Road, and I'm here tonight as a former lifelong member and stockholder of Muskogee Country Club. And Mike, I would rejoin if you would reconsider single member rates. I also am here as a former economic developer for the city of Muskogee. So I know firsthand how absolutely critical it is to have the wonderful Muskogee Golf Course and how important it is to utilize it in maintaining and creating economic development for the city, both in recruitment and retention for business and industry of all kinds. You can also imagine that as a lifelong homeowner, growing up and living across the street from Muskogee Country Club, of course, I'm a little bit reluctant to see a new housing development. Most of us are, but I also understand the need for it. It's been said that the owners need to create this development in order to recoup the funding that they have spent. I know you've spent a lot of money, and that they're doing a wonderful job. That being said, it's also, my two issues to address tonight are, number one, property values. It's been said that it should not affect our values. It shouldn't affect and it won't affect are two different things. I heard you just say that there has been a property valuation, and if so, is that property valuation available to the public, and does it include both quantifiable and qualifiable data, and is that data available to the public so that we can know and understand how it truly affects the value of the property in the nearby vicinity? That's my first question to the council. My second issue to bring before the council is to make you aware, and that has to do with this lovely package that I put in front of you. I'd like to spend the remainder of my time with that. The cover page gives you an overview of the two photographs that are attached. The first one is a Google Earth picture of my home with lots of Leisha's scribbles, drawings, red lines, etc. What it basically shows you is that my home is directly across from the golf course, across from Country Club Road. It's between number 16 and number 17, with the ponds right across the street. I love the ponds. They're beautiful. until it rains. When it rains, the overflow comes from the clubhouse. It runs down the golf course. It runs down the gullies. It runs into the pond. The pond, the retention pond, drains across the low spot, which is Country Club Road. Country Club Road then backs up into the drain that's duly in front of my house. It has nowhere to go but into my front yard. What you see on that Google map are the red lines where I have drawn where the high marks are. It creates essentially a football field in my front yard that is approximately 5 to 7 feet deep and approximately 100 yards by 100 yards wide. It also has begun creating a significant amount of property and physical damage to my property. Item number 2, and so you can see the red marks. I wanted to give you a better picture, but the one that I had is the second photo, and that's an actual photo taken from my window sitting in my office watching the rains as they've subsided, and you see only what's left of Lake Hayworth. As it's begun to drain. It's normally up to the circular retaining wall that's in the forefront of the picture, but in this case it's already begun to drain. I have truly spent thousands of dollars to abate this, including having the brick wall reinforced, bringing in sod to reinforced, having drains done to connect with yours. So my question is, do the actual engineering studies that you have created, do they focus on alleviating the potential flooding and runoff of the new development as it relates to the old and existing runoff? Will this runoff go to the existing retention ponds in any way, shape, or form, including the north ponds? And how will the city handle this additional potential flooding? Or will it be in my backyard again? Front yard, that is. Thank you.
Thank you for your 5 minutes, and then we'll open it for question or comment.
A question. Before I quiz you, I might add you've got one of the most stunning properties on Country Club Road. I really like it. It's pretty.
Thank you. It's a labor of love.
First, could any of the water that kind of backs up front, could any of that water be coming from your house going down? You've got that, what shouldn't be, but probably is a retention wall there at the bottom.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if flow from your home adds to that problem at all.
I can't answer that. If you drive down Country Club Road in the high rain, you will have to drive about 3 miles an hour because Country Club Road itself is, the water is so high from wherever the runoff is coming from. So I cannot answer whether or not any of it is coming from my yard, but I can tell you that I know that it's draining from the drainage that runs underneath the 2 drainage pipes that are adjacent to my property, both of which plug into the pond between 16 and 17. I've walked it physically.
So,
in the rain.
So you've got,
looking for a cat.
and this is a question, so you've got drainage pipes that are behind your fence that go underground?
There are, I'm referring specifically to the drainage pipes that are on the golf course that drain from the pond under Country Club Road to the sewer system. There are also 2 sewer grates that are in front of my house.
You're talking about storm water? Okay.
Sanitary sewer drains. Years ago, I worked with the city and had another drain cut in my front yard to allow any overflow to go from my front yard into the drain, into this, I believe it goes into the city I'm not sure. Frankly, I would have to have my contractor and a plumber double check that. Because the water was standing so high following the big floods that it was taking my fence away.
Well, I live near there, and I have driven the 3 miles an hour through that area with water to the curb. My last question, and it doesn't go to you, Mike. I know, and I've seen plans to address, she's on the other side of the ridge. Have you guys looked at north of that ridge as well? And I'm just saying, at some point, the city ought to look.
Yes, that is something that we have monitored. We have seen that water up like that in the past. But what she's talking about and what you've seen that's designed before you, they've improved that detention area. That's why they created that detention pond over there to take in any additional water flow. So it's not going to make it worse, but it probably is not going to make it any better on Country Club. That's something we as a city have to look at, is that drainage.
And I'm just wondering, I mean, I suspect before this project, you indicated to me the other day that, you know, you've got many issues around the city, but south going down to Come and Go, you've been looking at.
Yes.
I mean, anyway.
Yes, and if you've driven out there, you'll see that road is eroding on the sides, and that's why that takes a more higher precedent than the other direction. Not to say the other direction isn't an issue too.
Right.
But after
But
looking at
we
this,
can't undercut our roads.
no, there is a problem there, but we don't anticipate this project creating it or making it any worse.
Mr. Stewart or Mr. Garvin, one or the other.
I'll go by and take a
chime
look.
in on, I think that's probably
come by and take a look.
stormwater and not sanitary sewer water. Is that correct? Is that stormwater drainage and not sanitary sewer drainage? Okay, just point of clarification. Okay.
That's all I have.
Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized?
You sure can.
I went out to Ms. Hayward's place this week, and I was glad I did. And also we went out to met with the developer, Mr. Ross, went on the golf course with him, and also met with the neighbors that lives around Country Club in that area. And it's good to get out and look at things so you know when you come up here, you know what they're talking about, and I know what she's talking about. And I've seen the drain she told me, she showed it to me, and it is stormwater, and it runs out into the street. And also across the street is a detention pond. You got one detention pond pipe comes out, comes into the street. Then you have another one that the water goes into the detention pond. But that was the one that I was concerned about when I was out there. I looked at it and I said to myself, this water is not draining. And I know why wasn't draining. So what I did was I went on our tour of Country Club with Mr. Ross gave me. We went down there and we looked at the grate. The grate was full of dirt and mud. So Mr. Ross, I wanted to see, after we had a meeting the other day, I wanted to see if Mr. Ross was a man of his word. He said he was going to clean that out. Mr. Ross, you're a man of your word. You did clean that out. Because as a councilman up here, I do my homework. I get out. And like I said, Ms. Hayworth, I can understand. I wouldn't want my property to be in water all like that. Country Club already has a big problem right now before the development even comes. And like I said, I hope by him cleaning the drain, which, out, which really it wasn't his responsibility to do it, but he did. And I hope that kind of helps, because it was full of mud. You can go across the street now and look at your house. From your house, you can see where he did take the grate off and clean it, and clean the pipe out. Now, so I give him credit for that. And I want to thank you for coming up here tonight. I enjoyed my visit at your home with you.
Me too, thank you.
I'll turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Did you have a comment, Alicia?
No, I just want to say thank you for allowing me time to address
You
this
bet.
issue.
Are there other comments or questions? Thank you very much. Teresa Rutlinger? Name and address, and you will have 5 minutes, ma'am.
You've got to pause at 1:45.
I'm sorry?
It's right. Timer's on now. Teresa Rutlinger, 2500 Shelby Court. I have a couple of comments to make. You said the high density, that we've got it on the back side of the golf course and off of Shawnee and stuff, but we don't have any high density in the middle of Country Club. This is going to be high density in the middle of Country Club. Yes, it's going to the R1 intensity, but you know, covering 35% of about an 18,000 square foot lot, which is I think what the average of the Country Club lots are, compared to 35% of a 6,000 or 7,000 square foot lot, makes a huge amount of difference. You are going to have a packet here also. The single page shows you all the houses sold in Country Club with the exception of the top one. That's the Brown subdivision, which is right past Pearson's house on Harris Road, and of course the Riverbend Road one. These are houses that sold in 2016, 2017 that are from 1,600 to 2,400 square feet in the Country Club. And nowhere do I see any of them selling for $130 a square. I mean, yeah, $130 a square foot. One was built in 2016, and that was just 163. Where it says class, anything above an 8 is a custom-built home. Lower than that, some of those are just tract houses. The other one that's stapled, these are all the houses 2016 to 2017 that were sold in Muskogee that are 1,600 to 2,400 square feet that are in the Muskogee School District. That is not including Hilldale, because everybody was talking about Muskogee School District. So just some information for you on that, on the square footage. If I was a banker, I would look twice probably about houses going for $130 a square foot. The comps don't seem to prove it. Granted, some of these are older houses. I still think that there needs to be a covenants looked at. When you have these Pulse home builders and stuff like that, when you go in, yes, you've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 houses to choose from, but you know what you're getting. Here, you've got someone's word until they actually go ahead and do it. And we think that they'll go ahead and approve this. We think that they're going to go ahead and approve that. We think the wrought iron fence will be versus a privacy fence and stuff like that. Myself, if I were going to purchase it, I want it written in stone. This is how it's going to be, because talk is good, but when it comes to legal actions, I mean, you want to have it in writing instead of a, well, he said, she said type thing. Mr. Garvin said that housing stock has been reduced. Well, it's my understanding when we're demoing these houses, they're not livable to begin with, so I don't know if that's a real good comment to make. I mean, it's true, but these aren't livable houses that we have bulldozed down. I'm concerned about, and I've talked to somebody I respect very much on this subject, on the inspections. I did talk to Mr. Bishop after the meeting, on the Public Works meeting, and he went and said that the only reason he was doing that was because it was a PUD. If it would have just been not a PUD, but just somebody wanting to put those houses there, I'm assuming that he wouldn't have given the value of that. I think that if you were to get a non-biased appraiser, somebody that doesn't live in this community, as impartial as you want to be, if you live in this community, you're going to have some ingrained feelings one way or the other, and it might show in your appraisals a little bit. Not to say that the gentleman that was used just today was not a good person. Fencing, we still have 8-foot fencing to deal with too. The houses, 2 of them are going to be on roads. Their backyards are backing up to roads. I'm sure the 10 lots that are sold are the ones that are backing up to the golf course. I think that given that a bunch of information has just been thrown up to us today, maybe you should table this and give more time to review this and make more informed decisions. I want the golf course to survive, but on the other hand, too, I don't know if this is the correct way to go about it. Recruiting, as far as my husband's a physician, and we didn't have any problems finding a house here, and I don't think that's the main thing. Plus, a lot of these physicians have children. These are patio homes, very, very small square footage, less than a quarter of an acre, easily less than a quarter of an acre. And I think, I don't know how you can say it's going to be for retirement people and then go and say, well, we need to recruit for physicians. That's kind of an oxymoron to me.
Okay, is there a question or comment for Mrs. Rutlinger? Okay, Mr. Garvin, would you answer the question regarding the availability of the appraisal type information and the source of that information?
Yes, the source of the information is we got a hold of Chris Rowland, who is with Sooner State Appraisal Service. What we asked him to do, we gave him a copy of all the plans, specifications, and the files, asked him to review it and give us an opinion on what he anticipated, what effect it would have on property values.
Right.
Now, again, I don't think there's no way to be 100% sure until this property's developed and some houses are bought and sold. I don't think you'll actually know for sure until then. You just have to go by a professional opinion, and that was his professional opinion. He has no relationship with the golf course whatsoever, so he wasn't tied to them. He was just an independent appraiser that we contacted.
Okay, and if somebody wanted to contact him, that information would be available to them as
Yes.
well, I'm
Yes.
assuming? Okay. Justin Stout. Mr. Stout, you will have 5 minutes, and give us your name and your address, please.
Thank you, Mr. Coburn. Justin Stout, 3600 Country Club Drive. For starters, before I forget, I do have 2 questions of Mr. Garvin. Number 1, were any other independent appraisers consulted or only Mr. Rowland? And then number 2, was the question presented to Mr. Rowland whether there would be direct impact to the neighboring properties to the west or merely globally to the neighborhood conducted globally? So those will be my 2 questions. But additionally, guys, I know we're dealing with 2 topics here, and we're really only on topic number 1 as far as I can tell so far. Topic number 1 being rezoning from agricultural to a PUD. My problem with the entire plan, and it'll be the same on both topics. Before I get into it, I do want to tell everybody that I appreciate your time and energy. I appreciate you listening to me and appreciate you listening to everybody else that's concerned about this project. Mr. Kale, you in particular came back to my office earlier this morning, and I just want to tell you I really appreciate the one-on-one time that the 2 of us have had. I know I'm on the opposite end of how you view this project globally, but I really appreciate your time and efforts and listening to my voice and listening to everybody else. I really do. Mr. Van, you as well. I know you came out on a Friday night for a couple hours. It was a lot longer than I envisioned that meeting going, but and Mr. Coburn, you as well. Like I said, regardless of how this thing turns out, I'm glad that so far what I'm hearing is everybody's being polite to each other, and this is the way that our government process is supposed to work. So I appreciate everybody's time. I do have a number of issues that I take with the project, and I'll just enumerate all 4 of them, and maybe I'll get to 2 of them this time, and maybe I'll get to 2 of them when I get to talk about the other topic. But number 1 is the effect that it has on the golf course itself. Number 2 is the overall number of lots. Number 3 is the effect that the layout has on neighboring properties to the west in particular. And number 4 is, quite frankly, the tactics being used in getting this thing passed. So I'll start from the top, the effect on the course. The standards of review when we're analyzing whether or not a PUD ought to be authorized or not requires the city to try to conserve special features of the property, even if they're man-made features, the golf course clearly being a man-made feature. So one of the overall parameters that the city's supposed to look at and whether or not they're going to grant a PUD or authorize a PUD is trying to conserve this special man-made feature. I'm glad that the city's proposed ordinance, as I was just flipping through it, does indeed acknowledge the cultural importance of the Muskogee Country Club Golf Course. It is a tremendous asset to the city. There's not anybody here that's going to say otherwise. However, I believe that the ordinance reads, frankly, a whole lot like a propaganda statement that looks like it was cut and pasted from somebody that was the developer. It utilizes self-serving statements in an attempt to defeat the statements that were made last week when we were here. This course is over 100 years old. The game, of course, has changed over that 100-year period of time. It has changed as a result of technology, and it's changed as a result of just human strength. These 2 factors have forced courses to get longer and longer. We can look at the overall par of the course, and we can look at the overall length of the course, it is not an arguable fact that this development intends to change the overall length of the course. It intends to shorten that. There's no argument that it, in fact, attempts to change the overall par of the course. Those are not arguable facts. Those are negative impacts that this development has to this precious resource that the city has. It's a private resource, but it's a resource nonetheless. And the parameters, again, require us to make an attempt to conserve that resource. And so instead of attempting to change those facts, because the facts are what they are, they try to nuance it by pointing to what it used to look like 50 years ago. But again, the game has changed over that 50 years. They also want to point to Southern Hills. Well, Southern Hills, I just Googled it up while I was sitting here. Its distance is 7,184 yards. Muskogee Country Club from the tips is 6,600 yards, 6,665 from the back as far back as you can possibly go. And so we're already 500 yards shorter than Southern Hills was. So we can point to Southern Hills and say, well, they're a 70, so it's okay for us to be a 70 as well. But they at 70 are over 525 yards further than our par 71 is. And so this development reduces the course's ability to roll with the punches in the future, as again, human strength and technology require and necessitate that the course continue to be lengthened. I got to 1 out of 5 so far. I'll hit the other 3 a little quicker.
All right, Mr. Stout, give us just a second if someone has questions, if you would, please.
I don't like cross-examination. I was ready to sit down.
This is our turn, yeah. Is there a question or comment for Mr. Stout? Okay.
Much appreciated.
That has answered everybody who has signed up to speak, I think. Okay. From that point forward, then, we will close the public hearing, since we have heard those comments, and open it for council discussion or comment.
May I be recognized? Sure. I had a question earlier from Mr. Ross. Could you come back to the mic, sir? You know, the other day when we was riding around on the golf course, and I asked you about the, what they were going to be selling for, the lots, and you told me between 40 to 50,000.
Yes, sir.
Correct. Also, did we ever figure out how much, like the HOM? Is it HOA? HOA. How much that exactly is going to be?
As I told you the other day, it's not known at this point. That is an estimate of the 40 to 50,000. The HOA we don't know about yet. What you have to realize, we're up here as the managing group of Muskogee Golf. Everything we do, something like this, we take back to the full ownership. So I can't sit here and tell you it's going to be 100, 150. Can I tell you I think that's what it'll be a month? Yeah, because it'll have a social membership in it, which social membership dues are $47 a month right now. It will include the electric for the 11 street lights. It'll include the maintenance of the lawn and the flower beds. So I'm guessing somewhere between 100 and 150 a month HOA dues. That's the best I can answer it.
I was just curious because I didn't know if it could be done that cheap or not. You cutting grass is, it's expensive.
Cutting grass 8 months out of the year,
Yeah.
Taking flower beds. But we're doing it with our own equipment, our own employees that take care of the golf course right now. So is our cost going to be a little bit less? Yeah.
And also, how much would it be? I say to people in Eagle Crest, like when they form their own. I'm kind of new, man. I've never been in a development where you got to pay dues and all this, but where you got your homeowners association, you got a fee there too, right? You have 2 fees, right? It's that one.
It's one.
Like when the homeowners get together, like
HOA, homeowners association.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing. Yeah.
Same thing. Okay.
Same thing.
So you enlighten me then, because like I said, I'm not familiar with that too much. So
And I appreciate you coming out and investigating that. As Alicia said, she's got a water problem over there, and the water's running down the west side of that road onto her property, and then it's draining across the road over onto our property.
You seen what I'm, you seen it.
Yeah.
But I just don't want. After this vote, I still want to be friends with everyone
I
in
do
here.
too. Sometimes
y'all
you just
jumping on
gotta
me.
agree to disagree, you know. I don't live very far from Mr. Stout, but I'm not mad at him. I understand where he's coming from.
All right.
I've got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Typically, when you sell a lot for 20,000 or 15,000 or 10,000, or maybe some of the homes we've tore down and are close to town, so we might sell a lot for 363. But typically, when you sell a lot for $40,000-$50,000, is it typical that the square footage price to build that home usually goes up?
Yes.
So if you're building fourplexes in the middle of Country Club, where there are some, or eightplex units, and you pay $10,000 for your lot, you might put $72 a square foot into the home.
That's correct.
And if you're selling lots for $40,000-$50,000, is it typical that people spend $120, $130, $150 a square foot?
I'm not a residential builder, so I don't know, but from my research, yeah, people move into a better area of any town in any parts of the country, they typically spend more per square foot for a nicer home than one. And part of that is going to be our requirements of 80% brick, rock, and stucco. It's not going to have aluminum siding on it. You know, so yeah, are they going to be upper end type townhomes? Yes. They're on a golf course. People that play golf like to have a nice home. You know, it's not for everybody, but.
Thank you.
Now, the first 10 you have sold, where are they located? Are they the ones right near the street?
We have not done that. Until we get through this process, we're not doing anything. We're going to have a lottery. Those people have signed up. We're going to put 1 through 10 in there, and you're going to walk up and draw whoever gets number 1 is going to have first pick. I mean, that's typically how it's done. That's the only fair way when you've pre-sold something for them to get a fair shake at it.
I remember you told me that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, not to pick on Mr. Ross, that was a simple question, and he admitted he's not a home builder. Could I single out an expert in the crowd and ask that same question?
Mr. Tucker, would that be appropriate?
It's up to you as the chairman.
Okay, we'll let you have that leverage to do that, or that leniency.
Mr. Bishop, would you answer my question? Sure. Okay. I found me a lot for $10,000, and I'm gonna, or maybe I've got 5 lots for $10,000 apiece, and I'm going to build some patio homes. Is it fair to say that, and this is just in general everywhere, that if you pay $50,000 for that lot, it's more probable that your home is going to cost more per square foot, meaning you know, that's where you're going to get your $120, $130, $150 a square foot on a $50,000 lot, where you wouldn't put that.
Mr. Bishop, before you answer, step to the microphone so those that are looking on at television can see it as well, hear you as well. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I've introduced myself once. My name is Gary Bishop. I'm a real estate appraiser in Muskogee. To answer Mr. Cale's question, nobody's going to build a tract home on a $50,000 lot. I deal with construction costs every day. And the custom homes that are being built in parts of Muskogee and are going to be built with the plans that I've seen are not homes you can build for $80 a feet. You cannot order trusses for 40 tract homes and expect that to be the same price as $120 or $130 square foot home. Custom homes do cost a lot more, and new construction has still gone up. Cost of materials are all up. I don't know anybody that can say any products hardly are decreasing in price. roofing, lumber, bricks. You used to buy, I bought used bricks for $100 a thousand. When I built homes in the early 80s, they're $500 to $600 a thousand today. So if a person wants to come in and build a custom home with used bricks, you can bet they're going to have $120, $130, $140 a square foot in these houses. So if somebody's going to pay $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 for these lots, they expect to get a home with granite countertops and hardwood floors and a 70 to 80% brick or rock siding and heavy composition shingles or even more expensive roofing. You used to be able to buy a square of shingles for $30. They're $130. So costs have gone up. In any custom homes, I have not done, or I can say that I have done no homes that were custom built that have had less than $120 a square foot, including the lot. So if that helps.
That answers my question.
In a long, roundabout, winded way, so be it.
Thanks for letting me pick on you.
Anybody
Move for
else
approval.
have a question?
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. One other question that I would like to ask during this question time, Mr. Garvin, I had asked the other day on a PUD, can there be a square footage requirement versus a percentage of land area used? Do we have the legal right to designate that?
Repeat that question if you would, Mayor.
In a PUD, can we designate the minimum number of square feet versus a percent of the overall square footage of the lot as being the minimum?
That would be out of the ordinary. That would not be complying with any of the code requirements. It has not been done in the past.
Okay.
So now, whether we can legally do that, I'd have to refer
No.
to the attorney.
No,
But,
we can't.
That's not a requirement.
Because we don't have the authority within our own
It's not an
code.
ordinance requiring it.
Okay. All right. We have a motion. We have a second. Is there other comments or questions? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes. Motion carries. Let me say to everyone here, this has been a very testy process to get to this point. I appreciate greatly, as Mr. Stout had mentioned a minute ago, the attitude in which it's been approached, the way everybody has conducted themselves, and I just want to say thank you that it didn't get out of hand for us, and it makes it awfully, you add the emotion in it and makes it much more difficult. So thank you very much to council, to staff, and to those of you that are here representing both sides of the issue. Mr. Tucker, is this something I need to read?
Not right now.
Okay. Okay, we will go to item number 7.
Consider approval of the preliminary plat of Maxwell Villas Addition consisting of 27 lots on 6.64 acres located at 2400 North Country Club Road, Muskogee Golf Club, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Garvin again.
Mayor, members of the council, this is the preliminary plat for the Maxwell Villas addition, again, consisting of 27 lots on 6.64 acres. Typically, a lot of times we'll have the preliminary and final plat come through at the same time because it's not official as far as the plat being approved until the final plat's approved. But in this case, the preliminary plat serves as the site plan for the rezoning. So it's part of the rezoning. That's why it's on this agenda with the rezoning request. Property is located 2400 North Country Club Road. They are proposing single-family dwellings, as we previously discussed. They are extending infrastructure, as was previously discussed. This item was reviewed and recommended for approval by staff, Subdivision Review Committee, and Planning Commission. Be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Other comments or questions? And we have a number of people who have signed up to speak to items 6 and to 7. Do we want to hear those comments now? Okay.
Sure.
Mr. Buckley, you had signed up to speak to items 6 and 7. Do you care to speak to item number 7? Joey Dills, you had signed up in both cases? Okay. Martha Dixon, you had signed up in both cases, 6 and 7. No? Lauren Farron? No? William Philman? Okay. Alicia Hayworth? Lindsay Holloway? Teresa Rutlinger?
This is for the villas, right?
I'm sorry?
This is for the villas, Maxwell Villas?
Yes, number 7.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Teresa Rutlinger, 2500 Shelby Court. I still think these are way too small to blend in with the rest of the surrounding neighborhood. You have got 18,000 square foot lots with nice houses on them, and now you're going to something that's, some of these, I think, correct me, Mr. Garvin, some of even 5,000 some odd square foot. I think there was one or something that was in there. I don't have that particular paper. But anyway, you know, it's a third of the size. And we still don't know what size the houses are going to be. I mean, we're still just talking. We don't have anything in writing. They can be 1,200 square foot. Someone could be in there and do a 1,200 square foot and do $130 a square foot, or not, excuse me, $130 a square foot to finish out on it. And you're still going to end up with a 1,200 or 1,400 or 1,600 square foot house. We don't have that many small houses in Country Club. And I still can't understand how that is going to go and increase or keep the value of the houses that are already there, because a lot of those houses are way over the 2,400 square foot. And to go and say that these are patio homes. These are people that wanted to downsize, is what we were told. Now we're saying, well, no, these are houses for people we're trying to recruit physicians in. This is going to be a great tool to recruit physicians in. Most physicians are not going to want to be on that small a piece of land. They're going to want a little bit of elbow room so they can watch their kids, put swing sets up or whatever. The other thing is, yes, the golf course is around 3 sides of that particular thing, but all the houses are facing inside the cul-de-sacs or the road. So their backyards are along Country Club. They're along the main entrance into the golf course clubhouse. There's about 10 lots that their backyards are looking into the golf course. I think it would be money better spent to go ahead and have bigger lots. And if you still want to put a 2,400 square foot house, that would at least appease most people and blend in a little bit better with the neighborhood. I don't think they're being good neighbors at all. It's just not suitable. I can understand if you were starting out with a brand new golf course and then you started and, you know, you said, okay, this is going to be where the little villas are and this is going to be where our subdivisions are. Well, that's not the case. We've got a 100-year-old golf course that's already got established neighborhoods around it, and now you're wanting to put high-density little places in there it's just not the right thing to do. I'm sorry. I want the golf course to survive, but there must be some other way to do that. Or, like I said, just make it bigger and put bigger houses up there and not as many. You could, you know, probably get just as much per lot. You know, double the lot size or triple the lot size. Someone would probably do that to be right smack on the golf course for those that golf. But, you know, it's kind of are we doing it for patios and retirees? Are we doing it to supposedly recruit people? Are we just doing it to go and get as much money as we can, grab as much money as we can in one go-round? And the problem with this is Mr. Leonard came up and stood and said that, well, you know, there is not going to be a phase 2. Once you get that one PUD in there, and we already know that there's an extra area they can use, you're going to have another PUD. they're going to come back and say, oh, well, we need, we're not doing as good as we thought. Let's go ahead and do phase 2 or call this something else. This will be, such and such villa. It's just not the right thing to do for that piece of property as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you for your input. Mr. Stout, you had signed up for item number 7. This will be items 3, 4, and 5, right?
2, 3, and 4.
2, 3, and 4, yeah, okay.
Since I'm a lawyer, I won't pass. Again, Justin Stout, 3600 Country Club Drive. I'll try to pick up where I left off. I hope I made it clear earlier that I really wasn't opposed to the rezoning itself. What I am opposed to is this particular topic, which is the exact plat that the developers seek to have you guys rubber stamp. Again, I'm not saying do nothing. What I'm saying is do better. Not do nothing. Not nope. Can't be nothing. Can't be one damn house on that golf course. That's not my statement. My statement is simply do better. Do better than what is currently being offered. I haven't heard anybody in this now being the 3rd meeting that we've been a part of ever at any point say that some other number of lots would just be insufficient. 22 lots wouldn't raise enough money. 20 lots wouldn't get it done. We'd still be a pasture a year from now if only 16 lots. If you guys only authorized us to pursue 16 lots. I haven't heard anybody say that. But what we are hearing is the scare tactic that, well, if you don't let us have our way here, this is exactly what's going to happen. Is 2 years from now, this thing will be a cow patty in your backyard, Mr. Stout. That's what I'm hearing. So my problem is the overall number of lots. Like typical developers, they're trying to maximize their own profit at the expense of the end product. They want to cram 27 lots into a space where I'm going to approach you guys and hope you'll pass out an exhibit real quick that I just printed off from Google Earth. I don't know if you just want to take one down and pass it around. But my favorite songs as a kid. What it'll show is that we're cramming 27 lots into an area that typically in the surrounding area has only 5 lots or 10 lots or even 11 lots, but certainly not as dense as 27. One of the ordinances actually requires that one of the overall intentions of creating a PUD is to allow harmony with the surrounding areas. And in my opinion, this graphic that I've created in about 5 minutes shows how unharmonious this development would be with the surrounding neighborhood, but it doesn't have to be that way. If done appropriately, it could benefit everybody, not harm some, not benefit some to the detriment of others. So that's kind of leads me to a segue that the third problem is the drastic effect that it's going to have on these properties to the west. It completely blocks the view of 4 homes and greatly affects the view of several others. I urge you guys to review, again, the standards of review. I'm beating the same drum here. There are 8 required findings. No application shall be approved unless all of the following findings are made. And again, they're numbered 1 through 8. But number 3, the PUD shall not be injurious to the enjoyment of other property in the neighborhood. I don't even know how anyone could argue that it's not absolutely detrimental and injurious to the enjoyment of the Browns property, for example, where we met on Friday night. And it shall not substantially diminish or impair neighboring property values. Not the neighborhood collectively, but specific neighbors in particular. Again, I don't know how anyone could even argue that it will have a detrimental fair market value on those particular properties, those 4. And this development doesn't have to have such harmful effects. If we didn't try to maximize the number of lots and into this small area to make it such a dense development, it wouldn't have to be that way. If we created some lesser number, whether that number's 18 or 19 or 20 or 21 would be, I'm just saying again, it goes back to my message of not do nothing, just do better. Your first stab at this may not be what's best for you guys. It certainly doesn't appear to be what's best for the course, and it may not be what's best for the city entirely. And so I don't buy into the scare tactic that it's got to be 27 or this place is going to be a cow pasture, because quite frankly, I haven't heard anybody say that. And this is the 3rd meeting now where we keep hearing the undertone of we're trying to save the course here, but I'm not hearing the overt statement that's being made, or what's not being made is This is the exact number we have to have. This is the exact dollar amount we've got to have. Well, if somebody would disclose that, then perhaps we could alleviate the elephant in the room and we'd actually get to the bottom of it. You know, we would know how else maybe we could skin this same cat without harming this asset that is to the community and without harming Muskogee entirely. Finally, I'll say this. Is this project really creating growth? We've known about this project for years, yet we perhaps have as many as 10 lots sold. And has anybody asked them who has bought those 10 lots? Because my guess is it's the developers themselves. So I don't know that this is creating growth at all. Thank you very much.
Okay. Question or comment?
Are all the lots that are out there, Gary, all the lots that are out there, are they to our code where they're buildable lots?
Yes, and again, which there's, I think, 3 lots that's just under 7,000 square feet. There's 2 or 3 that's over 10,000 square feet. The average size is about 8,400. But these lots are based upon the PUD that was approved. In a single-family residential development, typically 7,200 is the minimum size. The PUD does allow them to go smaller. If they went with an R1 typical development, the 7,200 square feet, depending on the layout of the proposed development, they could have another 5 to 10 houses on that same acreage and meet our requirements. So to me, the PUD is limiting the number of houses they can have within that proposed just under 7 acres.
So the same standards where my house is built are the same standards that they're building by?
They will build by our standards, which is the same
The
standards
same
as the
square
R1.
footage, because when we built that, when we went and did those ordinances and those, whatever they are, we had so much setback, so much side to side to house. Are those going to be the same ones that we set aside for everybody else in Muskogee? Or are we making these smaller just to fit these houses?
We're not making them smaller to fit the houses, but the PUD will allow smaller lots.
So they're not going to be what we set aside in our ordinances,
They will meet the requirements of the PUD ordinance, yes.
the setbacks and everything.
In the PUD, you show the building area, you don't show the setbacks. That's why I was trying to explain on the one where I highlighted the area in yellow. Okay. The only difference is in a R1 on the lot, it'll show the 2 side setbacks, the front setback and the rear setback. Basically, anything on the other side of those setback lines is where you can build.
Okay.
In a PUD, you just show the area you can build rather than showing the setbacks. It's just showing just the opposite, basically, of what you would show in the R1. There's still setbacks. It looks like there's 5 foot on each side of the property that would be considered a setback. It's not shown as a setback, but it's not included in the building area. Some of the rear yards may be anywhere probably from 15 to, some of these are probably 30 to 40 feet in the rear. So it just depends on the development. A PUD is designed to be a little different than the traditional single-family zoning development. In this case, especially with the golf course, you want it to blend in and to be part of that existing golf course and not just your typical residential layout. When you look at the property to the west, it is a typical development to the west. You've got the grid system type streets, the typical blocks, the rectangular lots. That's basically what you have west, like Mr. Stout was referring to. If you go back to the east of the golf course, you've got more of the curved streets, the odd-shaped lots, no longer rectangle, a little smaller lots. So you've got different types of development all the way around that golf course. They're not all the same. And this meets the requirements, and to me, it helps to incorporate the existing course into this development.
Could I ask for clarification?
Yes.
Did I understand you right that within our ordinances that a developer could come in under R1 and put in, would you say, 40 lots or?
Typically, if this was being built as an R1 single-family development rather than a PUD,
Right.
every lot just has to be 7,200 square feet. They could add another, depending on the layout, they could add another 5 to 10 houses easily and meet our requirements for the R1. By going with a PUD, it's limiting them to 27.
That answered my question. Thank you.
Yeah, they still have plenty of room to do what they want. Well, and sitting here, and I couldn't make it the other night. They kind of, y'all didn't want me here, trust me. But I am here tonight, and I watched it on TV, and there was a lot of discussion and everything about the country club and changing the country club. Well, and those guys back there, I remember them when they were a lot younger and had a lot less gray hair when I worked at the country club. They, I remember one time when we built the first cart barn out there, tore down the old brick one and built up the one that's sitting there now, and everybody's like, oh, it's going to run the country club. And then when they started tearing out the swimming pool and tearing out the old dining room, oh man, it's going to tear up the country club. Well, as an employee out there that used to work in the cart barn, we used to have to go underneath that part, and I'm like, I was surprised that I even walked across the floors, and I was glad that y'all finally took that out. It was a great place. I enjoyed having been from 16 to 22 years out there. I mean, 20, about 18, 19 years old when I left there. That sounded bad, but I was there for a while. The thing is that the country club has changed so much since its original conception. It went from being brick and mortar, whatever it was, to having siding put on it, and that was going to destroy it. Everything that they've done to the country club, people have said that it's going to make the housing around there go down. It's going to make this happen. And at the end of the day, I guess chase the dog that I'm chasing is at the end of the day, these guys bought the property, and they wanted to develop the property. I'm sorry that so many people are afraid it's going to ruin their view. I'm sorry that people are thinking that it's going to lower their housing, the cost of their housing if they go to resale. I've heard a lot of different things here, but the one thing that I noticed the other night when I was watching on TV is these guys went in and bought this property. I mean, the fact that whether they're trying to save the golf course or they're trying to sell houses, I don't really care. The end of the day is that they're building houses that we don't have. And my only question was what I asked Gary Garvin a while ago. Do they set our setbacks? And he said yes, they could add more houses to it and still meet our requirements. I may be totally wrong in my belief in this, but the men that own this property have the right to develop the property. And as a city councilman, I don't think I have the right to tell them no. And I understand that everybody's telling us they're afraid that their housing, the price of their housing is going down. Well, if you know what, the price of your housing may go down anyway. I don't know if it's going to go up or down tomorrow. We can't dictate that off of whether we build 27 houses or not. Only way we could do is let these guys build their houses and be done with it. Whether that's classified as a rubber stamp or not a rubber stamp, I don't really care. My vote is that we do what we got to do to produce development in Muskogee. And if it's not directly infringing on people's houses over here, then we do it. And that's all I got to say about that. But I don't rubber stamp anything.
Well, I move for approval.
I second that.
We have a motion. We have a motion and a second. Is there comment or discussion further?
Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized?
You sure can.
Mr. Ross, on these 27 homes, to get out of debt from the country club, I know that's the main reason why we're getting these homes.
Can you repeat that, please?
The main reason we're getting these homes built in the country club, if the country club was doing well, we probably wouldn't even be thinking about this.
That's probably very true.
You agree, that's a true statement.
That's a true statement.
Well, what I'm saying is it any way possible, does it take all 27 homes to get y'all out of debt?
Well, no, this will pay part of our debt. We think it'll pay enough of our debt so we can survive. Is it going to pay 100% of our debt off? No.
So even if you build these 27 homes and for these lots at $50,000, y'all still going to be in debt?
That's right.
So how do you plan on getting out of debt?
Hopefully membership and doing a better job than that.
Mr.
Dues is what pays the bill.
Councilman Van, I worked at that country club for a long time. There's reoccurring debt that happens in golf courses that you will never pay for. The seed, the fertilizer, the water, the employees that take care of it, the mowers, the breakdown of mowers, the golf carts. the electricity to work it, you don't get out of debt while owning a golf course.
Well, let me,
What the average budget is
We're
to
starting to
maintain a
venture.
golf.
We're
Let
starting
me
to
just ask
venture
this,
a long
let me
ways
ask
from
this one
looking at the
question, Mayor.
preliminary plat.
Let me ask this one question, Mayor. Now, like Councilman Hall said, you never get out of a debt on a golf course, right?
We hope to.
But what I'm
That's probably a fair statement, though.
Yeah, that's the first statement. You never get out of debt on the golf course. But can you absolutely think in your mind with the people that own this golf course, all four of y'all, I guess, and the rest of the gentlemen there, you're not going to get in a bind that you're in now? Can you think you never get in the bind that you're in now by doing this?
No, I think that with this, and there's 31 shares of it out there. It's just not us four. There's 31 shares that was bought by the members. If we can reduce our debt this amount and possibly give some of the investors a little bit of their money back, yeah, we think we can maintain the future of that golf course. But at its current state, without this development, we don't feel like we can keep it going that long.
That's just my question. I didn't want y'all to get in this shape again.
Okay. Have we exhausted the questions?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. I turn the floor back over to you.
Thank you, sir. Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Item number 8, please.
Consider approval of emergency contract with KBC Construction for pollution control repairs at the raw water pump station or take other necessary action.
Mr. Riley.
Yes, Mayor and Council. Back in the spring, we had a significant rain event, and unfortunately, some lumber got into our sanitary sewer system that caused about $50,000 worth of damage to 2 pumps. And as we've got those repaired now, Mr. Updike is going to explain the solution, and we need to get that done as an emergency as soon as possible so that we cannot have it happen again if something like that happened again. So.
I'll be as brief as I can.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Several months ago, we were employed to do some design work and planning on the wastewater system and the treatment plant. And we at the wastewater plant, we prepared a technical memorandum. This is just the front cover of it. We looked through the whole plant, what improvements need to be made. The last work out there was in 1995, so it's needing some major maintenance improvements. We came up with 3 phases. This is a shot of the influent pump station that Mr. Riley was talking about. Phase 1 would be the influent pump station rehabilitation and recirculation pumps. Phase 2 was the controls and the instrumentation for the whole plant. That's really old for a computer system and a control system. And the third phase would be the headworks. That's some bar screens, some digester work, and also some work on the heating and ventilation system for the plant. What came up, here's the shot of where this, that influent pump, here's Hancock right here. If you're driving by that influent pump station that all the wastewater comes into, it's a 72-inch line, comes in there, and it can either be pumped to the treatment plant or to these flow equalization basins. And that pump station has, as Mr. Riley said, has had some damage, and if it happens again, there's going to be a major bypass, and that would not be a good thing to do. So this is a shot of the pump station. It's about 50 feet deep. It's a very big pump station. It's got 5 pumps. What we're proposing is, there's a shot down in the wet well. You'll take a look at that. What we're proposing is installing a basket screen. We do a lot of work for the city of Tulsa. All their major lift stations have these basket screens to protect the pumps, and we're recommending that be done. And when we were talking to the staff, the idea came up of, because of the urgency of this, is we could save about 60 days on the installation by negotiating with a qualified contractor to get this fabricated and put in. And so that's what we did. We prepared construction plans for it, just like we were going to bid the job, so that he would have those details. Sent those to DEQ. We got this construction permit in the mail, I think, today. So we're ready to go. We've negotiated, with the city's help, a contract with KBC Construction. We've worked with them before, And we reviewed their price, all their materials price, their overhead, their labor, and recommend that, along with the staff, that we proceed with this on an emergency basis. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Jay, is that basket made out of stainless steel?
Yes, it is. It's a big basket. It's 72 inches or so square.
It looked like it's made out of iron.
Well, that was an example. He has to plug the line that comes into the plant with an inflatable plug, and then work down in this wet well. It's a difficult project.
Are we not fairly vulnerable with the number of pumps that we have down now?
Yes. How many are working now?
2 small pumps.
2 small out of 5, and there's some larger ones that are all out.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Hence the reason for the emergency contract.
Are they all out because of this problem?
We had 2. We had just had one, the large pumps repaired. We had 2 running. When the newly repaired one was in, they lasted 40 minutes. When this lumber hit it, and took them both out.
So the idea is that we see an immediate need.
Sounds like an emergency.
And we're trying to address it as quickly as possible and as efficiently as possible. And I want to emphasize something that Mr. Updike brought up, is that we did go out and get a price, and then we compare. We didn't. Then we went and talked to some other people and were able to negotiate that downward. So as we're moving quickly on this, we're also working to make sure that we're paying a reasonable price. And the other thing about the emergency that I think is important to bring up is that by going this route and coming through council and requesting the emergency, we're going to be able to get it reimbursed back through our Oklahoma Water Resources Board loan. So that way we're able to keep our current resources current. This is a large expenditure, and we'll be able to use it out of that loan, which is part of what it was intended to do in the first place.
Right.
And OWRB has already approved the plans. So it's all.
Now, is this a part of the system that we refurbished a couple years ago or whatever it was? Or is that at different lift stations?
No, nothing was done on this lift station.
But is it the...
It's part of this.
It's part of the
recent
big
loan
scheme
that you got for
Okay.
22 million or something, right? Yeah.
Okay.
It's part of that program. We're just trying to move this one urgent part to the very
Right.
front.
Okay.
Yeah,
Don't-
part of our $27 million loan from OWRB had $3 million for the pollution plant improvements, and so this is advancing that project at a faster pace because it's more of an urgent need.
All those other ones are doing okay that we had?
Great. We're glad to give you a report. The final design's underway on all those, and
I can't imagine.
the port lift stations are probably going to be the first ones bid, probably in January, February.
Entertain a motion regarding this item.
Move for approval.
Second. Motion and second. Are there other comments? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson. Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes. Motion carries. Item number 9.
Consider approval of ordinance 3972A, amending the City of Muskogee, Oklahoma Code of Ordinances, Section 2-136, application of uniform method of filling vacancies on board and commissions, public trust or other entities within Article 5, Boards and Commissions, Division 1 generally, providing for the power of appointment specific to each board, commission, public trust, or entity, providing for repeal or severability, and setting an effective date.
Mr. Tucker.
Mayor, members of the council, what you have before you is a proposed modification to the existing ordinance relating to the appointment process for boards, commissions, and public trusts. If you all may remember, back in 2015, we created the ordinance which would effectively create individual cycles of 9 members to incorporate all of you based upon seniority. So in cycle 1, you would have the most senior member, and he or she would have the power of appointment to a board or commission based upon when that board or commission had an opening. So that has moved through. If you all may remember, we had 70-something vacancies when this ordinance was initially adopted. As of late, however, we've received some comments from many of you related to the methodology that was enacted back in 2015, particularly that many of you are getting appointments on the same boards, effectively not allowing an equal distribution of the appointments per individual board. So, for example, there are 9 members on the airport board. There can be instances, and have been instances, where one council member may have 2 to 3 appointments to fill on the airport board. And so the distribution of the appointment process is not equitable. So we've made a proposal for your consideration tonight, which will attempt to correct that inequity. In this instance, the ordinance has been amended to specifically identify that the point of the appointment process is to equitably distribute the appointments for all of the boards and commissions. Instead of creating a cycle where the appointments are filled as they come open, this ordinance will create an appointment for each board, commission, public trust outright. As those vacancies arise, whoever the most senior council member who has not yet exercised an appointment on that board will then get the next appointment. So, for example, the airport board having 9 members, through the course of the vacancies, you all will have 1 appointment for each of those boards. In something like the Urban Renewal Authority, where there are only 5 members, the appointments will go through. The most senior members will have the first 5. As someone from that board, that new board, expires, then council member in most seniority number 6 will have that appointment, so that every person will have an appointment to every board, public trust, entity, whatever, of the city. We have taken out all context to the cycles that we were previously using. That is the amended or the revised amended ordinance that I passed out to you all this evening, and also maintains the process for random selection if we have multiple members who have the same level of seniority. For example, we do have an election coming on, and so presumably there will be, or I should forget I said presumably, possibly, there may be 2 brand new members. And if that is the case, then those 2 members will have the same seniority because they came on the council at the same time. So we've left that methodology for determining who has the seniority for purposes of appointment on this. So we think this is a good fix for some of the questions that we've had, and it's a very fair process. What we will do at administering it, if it is passed, is we'll go back and look at all of the appointments that have been made over the past 2 years and make assignments for each council member who's made one, so that if you've not had an appointment on a particular board and one becomes available, depending on seniority, you will be first up for having an appointment on that particular board. So I have emailed a copy of this ordinance to the standing, I guess I shouldn't say standing, but the at the time standing committee for who looked at this originally in 2015, and with the exception of Councilwoman Langston, the committee has reviewed it, and I have not received any comments. I've had verbal conversations with at least one of the members who believes this properly incorporates what the intent of the council is. Happy to answer any questions.
Well said.
Question or comment?
Without getting into too much, was there just, how did it kind of get thrown to where it kind of wasn't equitable? What would cause that?
Well, nobody noticed it in the very beginning because we had so many vacancies that had to be filled. We had, I think the number was 70. So everyone was making appointments left and right, and nobody was keeping track of, well, no, I had an appointment to the Wellness Commission, but I haven't had an appointment to Urban Renewal. And it wasn't until we've got all those positions filled, which we did last year, and then have started going through the individuals who have ultimately expired or, in some cases, resigned. And then you look back and say, now, wait a minute, I've never appointed anyone to Urban Renewal, or I've never appointed anyone to the Wellness Commission.
Okay.
And so those are some of the questions that came up, particularly in the last round of emails that was sent by the clerk's office that said, all right, here's where we are, here's who has the next appointments. And many of you looked at those and said, I think I've had a couple of those to that same board. And so we wanted to make the change.
Yeah. I mean, I think I noticed that.
Oh, I noticed it too, and I probably owe Miss Tracy an apology for that. Just saying, because I'm gonna be honest with you, back when Miss Bates was here, I made a statement about it happening then. Hey, I've been on here almost 5 years, and I still have not gotten an airport appointment. Then it rolls around, there's 3 airport appointments that come on, and I'm going, I still don't get one. That is not how this board was set up, and this is not how this document was designed.
Well, Roy, are we going to reissue this next round of appointments?
Yes, those will be reissued.
Okay.
Before or after the election?
Hopefully
Since we
before.
presume.
Before.
Okay.
We'll take this, if this is passed, this will be effective within 30 days, and so that'll
What's the
give
number
us.
of vacancies now? 50? Have we made an appreciable difference in the amount of vacancies?
Yes, you have. There's not very many vacancies
Okay.
at all.
Well, and remember, when we did this, we also took boards and consolidated them in attempts to
Help
lower
that.
the number of boards and committees that we have. And in true fashion of our society in Muskogee, we have added more boards or committees that replaced them. We just yes, we've added some things to our deal. I was like looking at some of them the other day.
We have 21.
Yeah, we have some new little committees that we keep doing, and I'm waiting for the elevator committee. I want on that one.
And all of the ones that we have, that have to have a council member as a member of that board or commission.
Whoever that, if that council, like, for example, you sit on the airport board, so you would not have another appointment on that board. But
We-
when
we
you
might
come
let him
off,
have it.
well, right, when you come off, then
Thank you, Jamie.
you'd have the option to, after a year, sit back on there or appoint another council member. Because we do have some boards where the council member sits on there, and in that case, if that's your appointment, you can choose to sit on there, or you can choose to appoint another council member. So
Dance around
you'll need to
about
you'll need to make friends. Yeah.
Well, I don't want on the airport board, but I would like to have an appointment on there. So
Do we have a motion in a second?
motion.
Oh, okay.
Second.
All right. Entertain a motion in a second. Other comments? Roll call.
But Mayor, before you do that, the motion in the second, just to clarify, is for the version that I passed out for you today, because
Okay.
it's got some last-minute corrections.
And that's where if there's 9 members, 9 appointees,
I have mine.
if we have 9 appointees, then each one of us get a place on there.
Yes.
To appoint someone.
Yes.
Okay.
So to be clear, your motion is, what Roy said.
To accept that.
That's the way we took it. And the second was as well.
Yeah, but ultimately, each person.
Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, the motion carries. Stephen Ezell, you had signed up to speak, sir,
Yes, sir.
regarding a statement of support for law enforcement. Please give us your name and your address, please.
Stephen Ezel, 6121 South 6th Street East, Muskogee, Oklahoma. I was walking through the mall this evening before I came here, and I saw this shirt. You know, they have these like designs that you can have printed, and it had on the shirt, "If you see the police, warn a brother," like with the Warner Brothers logo on it. And to me, I found that to be very offensive and very disrespectful. I was tempted to put a sign on it saying, "Do exactly what the police tell you to do to the letter, and you won't have any problems." But if I had done that, that would have been defacement. You know, and it's really disturbing because statements like that, people perceive the men and women to be, in law enforcement, to be the enemy. And yet these men and women, they get out there on the streets and they put their lives on the line to keep us from acting like, pardon my delicacy, from acting like idiots. Or when we do act like idiots, to keep us from acting like bigger idiots than we've already acted. And these men and women, they sacrifice their holidays such as Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, when they would want to be home with their families, to be out there to help keep us safe. And as a historical note, there have been 8 members of the Muskogee Police Department from 1907 to date who have given their lives in the line of duty. The last one gave his life in the line of duty exactly 60 years ago, this year in 1957. So if you ever get pulled over by the police or questioned, my advice is tell that officer, thank you so much for looking out for my welfare. And if they give you a warning or a fine or citation, say, God bless you for catching me doing something that was endangering not only my welfare, but the welfare of others. And I just want to say in conclusion, if you really don't want any problems with our law enforcement, to quote the famous words of Bill and Ted, be excellent to each other. Thank you.
Good job. Thank you, Stephen. Mrs. Rutlinger, you had signed up to speak again, please.
Do I have to give my address and everything?
Yes, ma'am. Let's do that again.
Teresa Rotlinger, 2500 Shelby Court. This is a question that maybe Mr. Tucker can answer, or maybe it's unique to Muskogee, I don't know. But why do we have all of the same people on the Public Works Committee that are also on the City Council? And in this one case, too, we also have one City Council member that is also on the Planning Committee, the Public Works Committee, and on City Council. And it just doesn't seem like it's a good representation of...
Well, that's required by ordinance, that there be a council member who's on the planning commission.
Okay.
The way you look at it is the council sits as a administrative body in City Council. That's when they pass everything. Public Works and Finance is the working committee, where the council members will first discuss the items that are to be considered by the City Council. So they're hearing it essentially twice, one in working committee and then one at the time when it's eligible to be passed and to be effective at that time.
Okay. Is it possible, I know Mr. Johnson said something about maybe not having so many meetings every week or as many as we do per month. Is it possible to have a planning and public works meeting one week, skip a week, and then have your city council meeting so more people can look at their packets, do some research, ask some questions and things like that?
The only requirement
It's an agenda item.
No, but
I'm just asking.
Deputy Mayor, since this is not directed at the City Council,
Okay.
we don't have any issues, because staff can answer these when we can
Okay.
without violating the Open Meeting Act.
Just making sure we're not violating anything.
Absolutely, and as long as it's when the time prescribed. The only requirement that the charter is that the council have regular meetings. So anything else is wholly within their discretion to set up by ordinance. So the answer to your question is yes.
It could be a
It could be
possibility.
done.
Okay, thank you very much.
Derek Reed, you had signed up, sir, and give me your full address, if you would. And my preference would be that we address these from the council seats and not from the microphone in the audience.
I guess, first of all, Derek Reed, 550 South 7th Street. I didn't sign up to speak, but I was drafted. Mr. Vane has made it awfully clear that he's not going to run for re-election, so I guess he's putting me in training, teaching me how to be a good councilman. Put me on the spot tonight. But however, be it on a joker note, I would just like to recognize Mr. Ivory Van. He had a project for the Rotary Park here off of South 24th Street. He was able to get with Parks and Recreations to get a bleachers installed, and at that point, I guess they were out of money. And so he also had it as his vision to get a barbecue grill for the Rotary Park area. And so within an hour, he raised over $590 of personal donations in order for Rotary Park to have the luxuries of many other parks in our community. And he wanted me to take this opportunity to acknowledge those who supported this effort in helping get this barbecue grill for the Rotary Park area. Myself donated along with, he made a donation, Miss Judy Huffman, Darlene Lutch, Kelly Garrett, Lynn Wagner-Willis, Fred Hogle, Holloway Updike and Beckham, Bellin, Vicky Spalding, and Perline Boyati all pitched in to purchase this barbecue grill that would be on the site of Rotary Park. And so we would just like to thank them for their consideration of making Rotary a park with an item that was unable and was not able to be funded through the city.
All right, sir.
Yes, and thank you.
Thank you.
I want to, since Roy's made it clear that staff can chime in a little bit on this, I do want to make sure that I want to thank everyone who participated, and it's part of an ongoing effort by a lot of people in our community that when we have a parks project, we do what we can with the city budget, and then as we've seen at Honor Heights Park and at Robinson Park and now at Rotary Park, our community and our citizens get involved in private fundraising and help make those projects even better, and we're grateful for it.
Mr. Van, you had signed up to speak as well.
Well, Mayor, I don't know if it's against the rule to go down to that mic. I don't know when that came up, but I mean, is it against the rule to go down there?
We can hear you just fine right there. Give us your address, and
I didn't
we'll
ask you that,
give
Mayor.
you 3
I
minutes.
asked you, is it against the rule for me to go down to that mic?
No, it's not against the rules, but I think you need to decide which seat you're going to sit in.
Well, you didn't tell me. I'll be going down there. Ivory Van, 4338 Columbus Street. I was just going to make some thank yous tonight because I deal with these gentlemen every day on a daily basis, not every day, but on a really daily basis. Mr. Garvin, Mr. O'Reilly, Mr. Stewart, Jason Green, Jim Wixon, also Mr. Roy Tucker for his community service program, which has Natalie and
Donna.
Donna.
Natalie
Donna. And Leslie, she works with Mr. Tucker and Assistant Attorney Beast. I also want to say congratulations to you too. I'll give you a thank you. And also on this bleacher project, I want to thank the council because this was a team effort for Rotary Park. We voted for these bleachers in our budget to be installed at Rotary Park. And I want to thank you, Mr. Miller, because I have to deal with you all every day also, because you have to tell Mr. Stewart and them, Mr. Garvin and them what to do. But I just want to, thank everyone tonight because, like I said, they make a difference here in our community, not only in Ward 3, but all over Muskogee, because, we're everywhere. We try to do everything everywhere. So I just wanted to give these thank yous, and thank you, Councilman Reed, for recognizing those people that gave for their barbecue grill. Because Robinson Park has bleachers. I think Rotary ought to have bleachers. Robinson Park has a barbecuer. Rotary ought to have a barbecuer. And so we were blessed to get all these things done. And like I say, Councilman Reed, he's probably going to be my next not my replacement, but I got him trained now. He knows what to do. But I know y'all be happy. But I'm just saying it. But I just want to thank everybody tonight because, like I say, y'all mean a lot to me because it makes my job easy. When citizens call me, I can call Mr. Miller and he can get a hold of the department heads. And thank all the employees work for environmental control, the street department. They make a difference. If you go down 4th Street right now on South 4th, they just put a nice speed hump down there with nice signs. So we do a lot in the community, and a lot of people think all we do is Robinson Park. But we do a lot more than Robinson Park. But I wanted Mr. Reed to read that because me and Mr. Reed in Ward 3, we're a team. What I do, he does. What he does, I do. What we all do, we're all nothing but a team. So, like I said, that's why I want to come down to this mic. I'm used to coming down to this mic, Mr. Mayor, because there's no law not coming to this mic. So anytime I want to talk, I'm coming to this mic. Thank you, sir.
I got a question for you, Counselor.
Unfortunately, we can't have questions of the council.
I'll ask him right here.
I'll just be quiet about it.
Please.
That ends the citizen speaking portion, and we will now go to item number 10, A through E.
Consider an executive session to discuss and take possible action on the following. A, pursuant to Section 307B2, Title 25, Oklahoma statutes, consider convening an executive session to discuss negotiations with the Fraternal Order of Police, Lodge Number 95, and if necessary, take appropriate action in session. B, pursuant to Section 307B2, Title 25, Oklahoma statutes, consider convening an executive session to discuss negotiations with the International Association of Firefighters, Local Number 57, and if necessary, take appropriate action in open session. C, pursuant to Section 307B2, Title 25, Oklahoma statutes, consider convening an executive session to discuss negotiations with the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Local Number 2465, and if necessary, take appropriate action in open session. D, pursuant to Section 307B4, Title 25, Oklahoma statutes, consider convening an executive session to discuss the workers' compensation claim of Robert Conley, and if necessary, take appropriate action in open session. E, pursuant to Section 307B4, Title 25, Oklahoma statutes, consider convening an executive session to discuss the workers' compensation claim of Michelle Ogden, and if necessary, take appropriate action in open session.
Now entertain a motion for executive session.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Comment or question? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Hale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. We will now consider ourselves now reconvene from executive session. Roll call, please.
Mayor Bob Coburn.
Here.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Here.
Dan Hall.
Here.
Marlon Coleman.
Here.
Janie Boydston.
Here.
Wayne Johnson.
Here.
Patrick Hale.
Here.
Ivory Van.
Here.
Derek Reed.
Here.
Mr. Tucker, items 10.
10A, pursuant to Section 307B2, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, the council did convene an executive session to discuss ongoing negotiations with the Fraternal Order of Police, Lodge Number 95. After being fully briefed on the progress of those negotiations, no action is necessary at this time. Item 10B, pursuant to Section 307B2, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, the council convened an executive session to discuss negotiations with the International Association of Firefighters, Local Number 57, based on ongoing union negotiations, as well as discussion of a MOU. While there's no action necessary on the union negotiations as it relates to a new collective bargaining agreement, it would be appropriate to make a motion to approve a memorandum of understanding between the International Association of Firefighters, Local Number 57, and the city related to vacation block scheduling.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Hale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries.
Item 10C, pursuant to Section 307B2, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, the council convened an executive session to discuss ongoing negotiations with the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Local Number 2465. After being fully briefed on the status of those negotiations, no action is necessary at this time. Item 10D, pursuant to Section 307B4, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, the council convened an executive session to discuss the workers' compensation claim of Robert Conley. After being fully briefed of the claim and where we are in that claim, I believe an appropriate motion would be to authorize the city attorney to settle the workers' compensation claim of Mr. Conley in the amount of $11,500.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comment or discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Hale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries.
Item 10E, pursuant to Section 307B4, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, the council convened an executive session to discuss the workers' compensation claim of Michelle Ogden. After being briefed to the status of those ongoing claims, I believe an appropriate motion would be to vest the city attorney with full settlement authority to handle the claims of Ms. Ogden at the mediation that is upcoming within the range discussed in executive session.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Hale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries again. That concludes our agenda. Thanks for joining us.